Welcome to the Plato Paradigm, a paradigm shift in reading Plato's dialogues. Episode 248, Lysis 221b to e. One of the best ways to confuse an interlocutor is to use the same terminology in two different arguments and then mix them. The argument in which the son drank hemlock was used to show that something bad needed to happen for things to be considered filler to remedying the situation. The wine and the wine cup suddenly became friendly in order to remove the hemlock. The moment the hemlock somehow disappeared, the wine and the wine cup no longer were friendly for that situation. Socrates then went on to talk about emotions and, in particular, desire, in which case the thing desired wouldn't need to have anything bad in it. For example, the son, were he to be desired by someone, would be desired whether he drank hemlock or not, preferably not. Now that Socrates has two conflicting arguments to play with, he can now confuse Menexenus completely. Estai ara kaiton kakon apollomenon hos oiken phil ata. Nay. So there will be, even if the bad things are destroyed, so it seems, some filler, some things friendly. This would be correct in the argument pertaining to desire. There would be some friendly things, even if there were no bad things. I say friendly things and not friends because Socrates is using the neuter plural, and that is of the adjective, not of the noun. We're not talking about friends here, but things which are friendly, or things which are dear. So Socrates could be saying there are some dear things, even when there are no bad things. And Menexenus agrees. Uk an egeto kakon aition entu philon ti enai, uk an en tutu apollomenu philon heteron hetero. This wouldn't be the case if indeed the bad were the cause of something being friendly. One thing wouldn't be the friend to another, wouldn't be friendly to another if this were destroyed. In other words, if the bad were destroyed. And this would be true in the argument pertaining to hemlock. In the hemlock argument, the son alone is philos all the time, in the sense that he is dear, while the wine and the wine cup are not phila unless they are contributing to removing the bad thing, the hemlock. Aetias gara apollomenes adunaton puen et keno enai, hu en haute he aetia, orthos leges. For when the cause is removed or destroyed, it would be impossible, I suppose, that would still be of which it is the cause, you say rightly. The bad is the cause of something being friendly in that the things now being friendly are friendly as contributors to the removal of that bad thing. The moment that the bad thing is removed, in other words, that is the cause, once that has been removed, there is no need for the things to be friendly. And these things would be the wine and the wine cup. Socrates is deliberately not referring back to his examples, which would have done a lot to clarify what's going on here. When it comes to desiring, philos means dear, And when it comes to benefiting, philos means friendly. To put it more abstractly, philos can have an intrinsic meaning. Something has an intrinsic value and it is therefore dear, or it can have an instrumental value, and in some cases the thing can be beneficial, and we might also note that in some cases it can be detrimental. Wine is not always beneficial. It may be harmful. Menexenus says that Socrates is saying correctly, but I doubt whether he understands what Socrates is saying. In fact, if he did know what Socrates was saying, he would be criticizing it, because Socrates is confusing the issue. Hasn't it been agreed by us that the friendly loves something and because of something? And did we think then that because of the bad, the neither good nor bad loves the good? True. And now Socrates has added the third argument, in which the neutral body loves the medical art because of disease, the bad thing in the neutral body. Again, without the examples, it's very improbable that Menexenus would remember which argument is which, and he is totally confused. And yet he says, true. Nun dege hos eoiken fainetai alletis aitia tu philente kai philestai. Eoiken. But now, indeed, so it seems, there appears to be some other cause for loving and being loved. So it seems. Menexenus here is just repeating what Socrates said. So it seems. Loving and being loved we could interpret as being a friend and being a friend, just to show how confusing it is in Greek. Ar unto onti hosper artia legomen he epithumietes philias aitia, kaito epithumun philon estin tuto hu epithume, kaitote hotan epithume, hodeto proteron legomen philon enai, hyslostis en, hosper poie ma macron sunkemenun. Kindunue efe. So really, just as we were saying just now, the desire for friendship is a cause, and the thing desiring is friendly to this which it desires, even then whenever it desires. But what we were saying formerly was the friend or friendly was some sort of nonsense, like a lengthily composed poem. Possibly, he said, Allah mentoi endego toge epithumun, huan ende esse tutu epithume egar? Nay. But, I said, the thing desiring, whatever it lacks, this is what it desires, isn't it? Yes. I don't think Socrates is going to give examples here, but we can imagine that someone lacking liquid is thirsty, so the person desires a drink. Someone lacking food desires to eat. If this is the case, I suggest that you can desire what you lack, either food or drink, for example, or you can desire the activity which would satiate that lack. You can desire to drink or to eat. Tot ende es ara philonekenu huan ende es tokemoi. The previous formulations, without examples, allowed Socrates to confuse the various phila, friendly things, dear things. But this sentence is completely corrupt, and it's difficult for me to translate it. The problem here is that philos with a genitive has always been until now the noun friend, while philos with the dative has been friendly, friendly to, or dear to. If I were to translate this sentence strictly, and it uses the genitive, I would have to translate philon as friend, and this will be the result. So the thing lacking is the friend of that of which it would be the thing lacking. It seems to me Menexenus, as usual, simply agrees without understanding. I've already suggested some examples involving drink and food, and according to what Socrates has now said, the desirer becomes the friend of food and drink. This is what the sentence is claiming. The thing lacking becomes the friend of what it lacks. If someone is hungry, it will become the friend of food. If someone is thirsty, he'll become the friend of drink. This isn't as absurd as it sounds, because remember that friend is connected with the verb to love, and we could say that someone who is hungry likes food or even loves food, while someone who is thirsty likes drink or even loves drink. So it isn't too absurd. Obviously, Socrates isn't really talking about food and drink by this stage. He is thinking about hypothalamus. He's talking to Menexenus, but his words are really directed at Lysis, the victim of hypothalamus, and he is saying that hypothalamus desires Lysis, which means that he is a friend of Lysis. He likes Lysis. As I say, the boys are thoroughly confused, or at least Menexenus is. He's the one who's answering, and I suspect that they don't know where this argument is going at the moment. This is an heuristic argument, and Socrates is using an heuristic argument in order to persuade the boys, I'm already suspecting, to persuade the boys, or in particular Lysis, to agree to have an Erastes as a friend. As we saw in the very first argument, the boys, or Lysis, Menexenus wasn't there, Lysis assumes that a friend is someone who can do good to someone else, and there is no other need for a friend. It would seem that Socrates is arguing that hypothalamus would be beneficial for Lysis if he accepts him as his lover.